Hey sewing friends, so today's video is about my polka dot silk Georgette skirt that I made that was inspired by this Pinterest inspiration, or this Pinterest post. So let me tell you about my skirt. I did Simplicity 9472 and I made View B, which is the longer pleated version. For my size, which is a size 20, it called for 2 1/8 yard of fabric for 55, 60 inch wide fabric. It did call for interfacing on the waistband, and I decided to add a lining to mine because, let's face it, Georgette is see-through. So I used 1 3/4 yard silk twill for my lining fabric. Now, I had heard that working with silk and working with crepes and all is really difficult because the fabric tends to shift around a lot. And I've experienced that, like with viscose and rayons and all, where the fabric underneath will sometimes sort of move around. So the first thing when I did was lay out the fabric, and I wanted to make sure that it was laid out on the straight of grain, not just the top piece of fabric, but also the fabric that is folded and underneath. And so as I was trying to, lay it out and make sure that it is on the straight of grain, I noticed that the dots underneath would actually line up with the dots on the top piece of fabric. And so I actually spent a good amount of time trying to line everything up and get it so that it was, matching and on the straight of grain. And to be honest with you, I think that that is time well spent. Now, years ago, I had taken a Craftsy class by Linda Maynard, and one of the things that she said is that really spend time, that it's really important to make sure your fabric is laid out right so that it is on the straight of grain. She said you're never going to get a good fit. You're going to never be pleased with your garment after you wear it and wash it a couple of times if it's not on the straight of grain. So ever since seeing that, I've always taken a lot of time to really make sure my fabric is laid out correctly. So once I had it, to where I thought it was pretty good, I went ahead and started pinning and cutting out the fabric. And the skirt itself has 4 large pleats in the front and 4 large pleats in the back. And I wanted to add a lining. So let me kind of show you what I did with the lining. I didn't want the pleats in the lining because I thought it would add just a little bit too much bulk. And let's face it, I don't need any extra bulk in my waist area. So what I did is I went ahead and took the skirt pattern piece, folded the pleats in so that it shortened the waistline, and then I traced out that folded piece, with the pleats out to make my lining pattern piece. I also shortened it by 2 inches because I always like my lining to be a little bit shorter than my skirt. And you can see that there is a considerable difference in the size of both pattern pieces. And I actually felt really good because after I had sewn the pleats together and I put the lining together, everything fit perfect. Every notch matched, every center seam matched. So I felt really good about doing that it was a pretty easy pattern hack, but I felt pretty good about doing that. The only issue that I really had was getting the zipper in. And I thought about this, and I don't know why it just escaped me. I went ahead and installed the zipper on the skirt, the silk Georgette. And I went ahead and added, some stay tape to give it some stabilization. And it wasn't until after everything was done and it was basically almost completed that I realized I should have installed the zipper on the lining and then attached the skirt to the lining. It's perfectly wearable as it is now, but it's such a nice fabric. It's such a nice, garment that I'm actually going to take the time. I mean, that's going to be one heck of an unpick and redo, but I just would feel better knowing that I made it, took the extra time to do it, I think, correctly. I'm going to have to do some research, but I think that it would just work better overall if the zipper were attached to the lining rather than to the silk Georgette fashion fabric. So I still need to hem it. I decided I want to do a rolled hem, but I don't want to hem it until I have the zipper redone. And interestingly enough, I saw this Lily Silk ad here, And I would swear that this is the same silk Georgette fabric that we're using. Now they actually do a small hem at the bottom, but because it's so sheer, I don't think I really want that. It's not that big of a deal with my serger to do a rolled hem. But again, it's like, I want to wait until the zipper is done before I do that. And you know, this is something I need to think about going forward too. I went ahead and, or I'm going to have to probably cut off a good 4 inches because that is such a long skirt. And then combined with the amount of fabric that I had left over, I probably bought anywhere between a half a yard and a third of a yard too much fabric. And when you're paying a premium, you know, price because it is silk, that's some decent cash. So I think going forward, I really need to pay attention to take out the pattern piece, to sort of measure it, look at it against my body, because I really think I could have bought at least half a yard less fabric than I did. Same with the lining. And I think that if I do that over the course of the whole year, that it's going to save me, I think, a considerable amount of fabric. And plus, I'm not going to have my sewing room just filled and cluttered with a bunch of fabric scraps. So I totally love my skirt. I think it's a success. Yes, I do have to redo the zipper and hem, but combined with the black sweater that I made, I think this is an outfit I'm going to enjoy wearing. The only thing I need to do now, the next step, is to go shopping and get some shoes and some accessories to wear with it.